everybody, welcome back to my channel. I am so glad you're here today. Today I'm hopping on for video number 3. I am doing multiple filmings today because I had a list of videos that I wanted to accomplish and hopefully get caught up back onto my twice a week schedule, with hopefully maybe some added bonuses in here and there. So I'm so glad you're here, and today we're going to talk about hopefully not a controversial subject, but it's something that I want people to be aware of and to be mindful of. This is a couple lessons, the do what I say, not what I do kind of thing. And also, please do your own research. That's kind of what I've had to do. And it's always good to have this knowledge. And I was going to grab a couple books and I didn't. I'll try to link the books down below. So let's get started on this video. The lesson part in this is, most of you know that I have struggled with some health stuff this spring and had a hospital stay very unexpectedly. And so basically things just really got behind, and I had baby bunnies at the time. I had 2 sets of baby bunnies. Scott did a fantastic job of keeping everybody alive and healthy. Thankfully, there were no unexpected things that I had to come home to from the hospital or anything like that. And so we have done well. But with that being said, I feel like I slacked on a couple things, and I want to talk about that. I had a French Angora baby that I had sold to, I had talked back and forth with this woman, and I had sold it. She was for her daughter for 4-H, and so we had made plans, and we had some there was some confusion in there as to when they were going to pick it up, but it ended up working out fine, and they ended up coming on a Sunday, and she had actually gotten with me, I think like the day before, saying, can we come tomorrow and do this? And so we did it, wasn't a problem, and they came up here to pick up the rabbit. And I had grandkids that week, and so my granddaughter was begging me not to sell this baby bunny because she was playing with it all weekend. And I said, no, it's already sold. And so she had been playing with it, and the bunny was fine. And I actually did a check over of the bunny on Saturday, made sure she didn't have any mats or anything like that, and ran through just some of the things I do to check them over, and didn't see any problems. And so we had gone to church on Sunday morning, and they came shortly after that, and we were super busy that day for some reason. I can't remember. It's just been a crazy few weeks anyways, so we may have just been trying to catch up or get ready. Our son and daughter-in-law had their wedding reception here at the house this summer, which was one of the big events that we held here, and so we were trying to get ready for that. But anyways, they came, and I was talking to them and showing them around, and I had 3 of the baby girl bunnies in a cage, a nice size cage, but they were all little at that time. They were only 8 weeks old, and they were all in the cage together. And so I reached in to get the bunny out, and her face was all wet, and I thought, well, that's weird. And I kind of looked at her and stuff and looked her over, and I said, I don't know why her face is wet. I said, it may be because when you've got a bunch of bunnies in a cage and they run around when they're babies, a lot of times they'll knock the water bottle tubes, and they'll get wet from that. And so I thought, well, maybe she was playing with the tube, or she ran by it or whatever and got the side of her face wet, and didn't even think of it, or think twice about it, and I should have. But they got her home, and she messaged me the next day, and she said, I think the bunny's sick. And I felt horrible. I felt awful. It's not something that typically would ever happen. And it's nothing that you want to happen. And so that's the first lesson. And I knew and they were already here, they had driven over an hour to get here. And when I noticed that the bunny's nose was wet, I thought, oh, is something wrong? But I kind of brushed it off, one of those instinct things. So we went back and forth, And she said they actually had a vet out to their house that day for their goats for something different. And he happened to take a look at this bunny, and he thought it had snuffles. Now, snuffles is a respiratory illness in rabbits. It's extremely contagious, and it does not go away without antibiotics, if I understand correctly. And so we talked back and forth, and they had 4-H fair coming up that following week, and she's like, I just don't have time to take care of a sick rabbit. And I said, well, I'll come get it. I'll come to you and get it and bring her back home, and I'll get her some antibiotics, and we'll go from there, and you can make the decision. So I went down and got the rabbit, and she was definitely sick at that point. This was just like, I don't know, 3 days later probably. And so got her home. I did a ton of research, and and basically if it snuffles, if I understand it right, they have to do blood work to figure that out. But it's, like I said, highly contagious, and oftentimes the rabbits don't make it. The weird thing is that none of my rabbits were, and none of my other rabbits were showing signs of anything. Even the 2 girls that she was living with in the cage didn't show any signs of being sick or anything coming on or anything like that. So I did my research and found out there were a couple of antibiotics that worked. And so I looked up online. I looked up on TSC, and I kind of knew this in the back of my brain. They were online. The specific respiratory antibiotic for rabbits was online, and I didn't even pay attention. I thought, oh, cool, I'll grab the rabbit and then stop by TSC on my way home and get this thing. And so I did that, and come to find out, the only way you can get antibiotics at TSC anymore is through a prescription through your doctor, and it has to all be done that way. And I talked to the lady that manages that section, because they've gotten rid of a ton of stuff. Like, there's even we all knew the thing with ivermectin, which I can still get, the ivermectin, which we'll talk about here in a minute, that I use. But there were some that I don't think you can get anymore, and there's been other stuff that you can't get anymore. And she apologized. She said, no, you have to go through your doctor to do the online. She said they'll ship it to you from TSC or to the store, but it has to have a doctor approval. And I'm like, oh. So long story short, or long story longer, I got home and I called our vet, which our vet has been weird since COVID also. Our vet used to be our vet for all of our animals, our dogs or cats, and our goats when I need them. And I recently found out that they are no longer doing small animals at all. They're just doing my goats. So I can call them for my goats, but I can't take my dogs there anymore. Which I kind of had a feeling that was coming just by the way things were during COVID, and we couldn't get appointments, and there was never a vet in there. And so I called them just to say, I used to have my dogs come here, and I'm like, is there any way that I can get a prescription written for, I have a rabbit that has a respiratory illness, and can I get a prescription written or signed if I send it to you guys? And the answer is no. And I'm guessing I've had this before years ago when I was in a different town. We had our vet that we used for everything, and they absolutely refused to see my rabbits. They wouldn't give me any information, no advice, no nothing. They do not handle rabbits. And so she said the same thing. They will not do rabbits. They will not write a prescription. They will not, nothing. And I'm like, okay, so where do I go for this? And she recommended the only place to go was like an exotic pet vet. So we live in the middle of nowhere. We're an hour from most big cities, if not more. And there are no exotic pet places in this area. So side note, Dr. Pohl, which everybody knows who Dr. Pohl is, he lives they are about an hour north of us here. So if I really wanted to push and dig, I possibly could have gotten into him, although a few weeks prior I had heard somebody had wrote on Facebook, a friend of mine, that they tried to get in to see Dr. Pole for something and he was just booked, absolutely booked. So my guess is I probably could not have gotten in to see Dr. Pole, but my guess is he would have maybe seen my rabbit. So that was off the table. And let me preface all of that by saying I love my animals. Our dogs are like our kids right now. We're empty nesters, so we have 2 dogs that are absolutely spoiled rotten. I love my goats, my chickens, my bunnies, but in the end of the day, they're still animals, and I am not going to go to crazy, expensive, exhausting extremes, especially right now in my life with everything going on, to get my pet rabbit a prescription. So that's my opinion, my viewpoint. You might think differently, and that's okay. You know, that's okay. That's how we're all built. But again, I take good care of my animals, but I am not going to go to extremes. So I could have found a exotic animal pet vet somewhere, I'm sure, but I was not about to drive 2 hours or 3 hours or whatever it was going to be in order to and actually I can think of another one probably an hour and a half away that might have been giving me some idea, or at least signed a prescription for me. So with all of that, I decided to do some research, and I found some things that's what this video is about, that I think everybody should have on hand and be aware of things that can happen with your animals. Today I'm talking specifically about my rabbits, and I'm only touching the basics. Like I said, do your own research and find out for yourself. But I did some deep dive into some things, and long story, I don't think she had snuffles. She has recovered. She's actually in the previous video that I just did on grooming young rabbits, and she is fine now. She's still with us. So I don't believe it was snuffles. Plus, none of my other rabbits got sick. I did quarantine her once I got her back here. She went into a different building. She actually was my husband's mascot out in his workshop for weeks until I knew that she was clear. And I did get everything to clear up. So let me give you just some basic stuff that I did and some basic stuff that I have for my rabbits. I feel like in the world today where we're at, you really need to learn some of this stuff. Like the TSC, the manager said, it's just so much harder when she doesn't have access to stuff to give to people. When people have knowledge, we know how to use this stuff. We can learn how to use this stuff. So she said it's really frustrating for her too, because she used to be able to, you know, a farmer or whatever would come in and say, hey, I need such and such, and she'd have it for them. And it was not a big deal. And now you have to jump through hoops to get it. So in my research of respiratory issues, I found a few things that were helpful. And so I'll share those first, and then I'll go through. I have a little basket here of some of my stuff that I have out in the barn that I use on a fairly regular basis. Not all the time, but I do have it on hand. So what I found out was rabbits with respiratory issues can take chamomile. They can take eucalyptus. Is it eucalyptus? Yes. And a couple of other remedies that we would actually use ourselves. Those are really good for rabbits. I'm going to pause this because I'm going to go get a bag of something that I also ordered to have on hand. So hold on. Okay, it was not eucalyptus. That's why I had to stop that, because I have the bag of stuff in there. Echinacea. So echinacea and chamomile are really good for rabbits. Well, I have chamomile growing out in my garden, and so I started clipping off like a stalk for her every day, and she was eating it. A side note here, she was eating and drinking just fine. She, other than having the stuffy nose, everything else was fine. And so I was giving her chamomile flowers out of my garden, and I ended up getting this for her at, I think it was Petco. This is, and she's the only one that got this. None of my other rabbits got this because it's too expensive to give to 20 some rabbits. So this is a hay mixture, or it's actually more than hay. It does have Timothy hay in it, but it has herbs in it. So the herbs that were in it are chamomile flowers, which was one of the things that I read that does a great job on respiratory infections for rabbits. It has hibiscus, it has blue cone flowers, rose petals, raspberry leaves, birch leaves, marigolds, and nettle leaves. And so all of that was in here, along with some Timothy hay and some pellet things. And I think this was probably maybe one of the best things to get her. And so, like I said, you can get this at Petco. I'm going to either write this down or keep this out in my barn so I know what it is. So that was one of the things I did. I got echinacea. This is like tea leaves, and they can eat these. I will have this on hand next time. I didn't end up having to use it because she got better. I did get, and again, please do your own research. This is just what I researched and what I felt comfortable doing. But I got this echinacea and golden seal. This is, it shows a cat and a dog, but this was an all small animal. It's just an oil, or herbal, I shouldn't say oil, it's an herbal formula for small animals, and it's just a dropper, and it gives a weight on the back. I gave her like I think I gave her like 0.25 milliliters, which is, it's marked on the little dropper there. So she just got a little bit of this every day. And the other thing I did was, this is a probiotic, and so I used a little bit of this in her food every day. And then I got this Vet RX, and I think this was the other thing that really knocked it out of her. This is for respiratory health, and Vet RX actually has, they have it for goats, they have it for all kinds of pets. And so I have a goat one now just in case. I keep it on hand. It is 100% natural, which I tend to lean towards anyways. I am not, even for myself, I am not a big, give me an antibiotic person if I don't have to be. Now, in some cases, you have to be. Like when I was in the hospital, I had to take antibiotics to get better. But if I can kind of lean towards the natural side of things, that's what I do, even for myself and my family. So this stuff, it's an oil. You warm it up and you put it right under their nose. You just wipe it on their nose, which was super easy compared to trying to put a dropper down her throat. This one was super, super simple to use. And so you just warm it up a little bit. I did it in like a pan of hot water with just a little tiny, it only takes a little bit. So I just put a little cup in the hot water and a little bit of the oil. It's an oil base. Put it under her nose every day. And so these two things she was getting every day. This she was getting in her medicine or in her food every day. This comes with a little scoop. I was just giving her a little scoop of this. And then the hay mixture, which was excellent. So I think all those things combined helped her a ton. Within a week or two, she was getting better. And now she's doing well. So those are the things for respiratory infection. The other few things that, I mean, you could take a deep dive into rabbit issues, rabbit diseases, all of that stuff. I only want to touch base on a few basic ones that I've dealt with in the past. The other one I've had is fur mites on my rabbits. I do have that every now and then. The way that I get rid of fur mites is through, which I forgot my ivermectin. I just use, there's a couple things that I use. Diatomaceous earth is one of them. That's the more natural route. You can sprinkle just a little bit. It doesn't take a lot because even as humans, we can take diatomaceous earth, and I think it's like a teaspoon. So just a sprinkle in their food, and they can eat it. The other thing I do with diatomaceous earth is put it right on their back. I just sprinkle some right on their back, and it gets into their fiber. It does take longer to get rid of the fur mites that way. I keep ivermectin on hand, and a lot of times I'll just go to that. So I use the horse paste ivermectin, and I use like a green pea size. And there's a couple ways to give it to them. You can put it on a banana peel or something like that if you know they're going to eat it. a lot of times I have fussy rabbits that won't eat banana peels sometimes. So if I'm gonna make sure that they get it, I have like a just a plastic knife out there, like what a plastic knife, fork and spoon set. I have a plastic knife and I put just that little tiny amount on the end of the knife and just put it in their mouth and give it to them that way. So I have ivermectin on hand at all times. I did buy extra in the last few years so that I have it just in case. Right now you can still get it off the shelves at TSC and order it through Amazon. The other issue I have dealt with my rabbits, mainly these are the three big ones I've had, respiratory, the termites, and eye issues. I have had quite a few over the last 20 years that I've been doing this. I've had eye issues before, and thankfully you can still get this. I get this through Amazon. I did see it at TSC when I was looking for the other antibiotics. They still carry it, and it's just a little tube of terramycin, and this is an antibiotic eye ointment. You just take it and put it in their eyes whenever they have problems. I randomly go through that every now and then. I will have an eye infection here and there, and so this has always helped deal with that. Let's see, I do have, this is eye and ear infection for dogs and cats. It works for the rabbits, and this is like a puff of, it's like a powder, and it also works on cuts and abrasions, things like that. So you put that on there. I have nicked rabbits when I'm trimming them before, and you have to put something on it to get it to stop bleeding. That's what I could use. I also have blood stop powder, which is the same thing. It just stops if you nick in a toenail or anything like that. You'd want to have this on hand because toenails will bleed like crazy. And the last thing I have in my little basket of goodies is this is just an antimicrobial eye wash, and I also have the eye gel just like this. It's antimicrobial, and it helps with redness, irritations, and pink eye symptoms. And so you can use that if you ever have an eye issue. So that was a very long conversation. Again, do your own research. This is what I feel comfortable doing. And again, I'm not going to go out and spend hundreds of dollars on my rabbits. I'm just not. I have a lot of rabbits, and I love them all dearly, and they give me beautiful fiber. But if it comes right down to it, and I have to make decisions, I will. So yeah, I will try to remember. I'm hoping I can find this on Amazon. I will try to remember to link the stuff I have here down below. And yeah, I think most of it actually all of it did come from Amazon, so I will put links below. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope you enjoyed it. As always, if you have any comments or questions, please put them down below, and I will be back. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I hope you're creating something. Bye.